Global warming and catastrophic weather changes. In my last post I mentioned oil depletion and terrorism because those are two forces which are driving current events, as well as fear in people and in governments. In this post I want to talk about another such force, that is weather change or global warming. It seemed for many years the possibility of global warming was simply denied. All of this early disbelief has now been dispelled for all but a few who suffer from denial of the most severe degree. The first proof is the instrumental records kept by various weather stations since about the 1800s. Next, the history of weather and weather changes as recorded by various means over the last 1,000 years. Written descriptions of weather go back to the medieval warm period, which may have begun as early as 600 or 800 AD. Then came the data discovered in the Vostok ice core, which proves weather changes can be identified, at least according to the evolutionary model, as far back as 450,000 years. This data was confirmed by ice cores from the Antarctic. Notice in this graph that there are 3 warm periods between our present and the beginning of the graph. On the 450,000 year scale, these temperature maximums must have lasted hundreds of years, and the change from cold to warm took several hundreds of years. First, notice on this graph that the last cold period appears to have occurred some 50,000 years ago. There's no sign of the weather changes over the last 1,000 years on this chart. The present change in the world's atmospheric temperatures does not match that scale. Our present warming cycle can be identified as beginning about 1800 at the end of the Little Ice Age, and in just 200 years has reached a warm peak almost as warm as all previous temperature maximums. Second, the ice core record does not appear to match the evolutionary record. Third, there is no evidence of the event which caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. However, the scientific data for both the present and historical weather changes seems to be incontrovertible. That the world's weather has changed in the past and is changing now is no longer denied. I will not dispute or deny that data. What I want to discuss now is how the present weather changes fulfill Bible prophecy. Weather fulfills Bible prophecy because it is a force which causes famine. Too much rain or not enough rain cause flood or drought, which in turn causes famine. But first, I want to dispute that the earth is over 7,000 years old. Second, I will dispute 2 theories related to the cause of the present warming cycle. I'll get to that later. The graph which shows the Vostok ice temperature record is graphed on a 450,000 year scale. That scale is based on a belief in the theory of evolution. I believe the earth is about 7,000 years old, and the flood of Noah took place about 4,500 to 5,000 years ago. Many scientists believe the earth was struck by an asteroid which wiped out all life, including the dinosaurs. I believe the flood of Noah and the death of the dinosaurs are the same event. That event melted the former ice caps, and the present ice caps were formed after the flood. Therefore, the Vostok and Antarctic ice caps cannot be over 5,000 years old. By redating the graph to fit the age of the earth, the Vostok ice data shows the temperature changes over the last 4,500 years. On this time scale, the Little Ice Age, the medieval warm period, and the Bronze Age maximum can be identified. The cause of weather changes. One theory is that industrialization and the burning of fossil fuels, man-made CO2, is driving the weather change. The other idea is that the world's weather is driven by the sun and is therefore a natural cycle and is always changing between warm and cold limits. Both of these theories are, plain and simple, an effort to deny reality. First, man-made CO2 is an extremely small part of all CO2 and is a very small part when compared to the natural sources of CO2. Second, it is not CO2 which regulated the historical weather cycle. The world's weather is driven and regulated by the sun. It is the sun which heats the Earth's atmosphere, and CO2 is a natural consequence of air and sea temperature. As for the natural cycle, I do not dispute that the present weather changes are natural. What I dispute is that since it is a natural cycle, then it will not have any effect on humanity, Actually, it already has affected humanity. Two cycles can be demonstrated with any certainty. First is a solar activity cycle which repeats in about 11 years. The second is a cycle of ice ages. But the ice ages are a consequence of atmospheric temperature change, not the driver of that change. The first identifiable ice age, after the flood of Noah, was followed by a warming and cooling cycle until the present, what we think of as normal weather. The point of this variation of denial is that the present event is not man-caused, nor is it caused by an unusual solar warming event, and thus it is meaningless on an immediate human scale. Denial by historical comparison is self-delusion. Here is the truth. It does not matter what the cause of the world's weather is. What matters is that weather drives food production. What matters is that inconsistent weather disrupts food production. What matters is that flood and drought cause famine. What matters is that famine is one of the signs of the Lord's return. The most significant human activity related to weather is food production by both natural and artificial means, hunting, gathering, and farming, agriculture. These human activities, on which the fate of the human race depends, are directly tied to the weather. Without the adequate supply of food as required by the world's population, massive starvation will occur. Massive starvation will most certainly lead to riot, war, and the collapse of modern civilization.